Cindy and I, Sunday is a day of worship, and as I see all of you here, we all can agree that Sunday is a day of worship for each one of you as well. But not only is Sunday a day of worship for us, but Sunday is also a rest day for the Grants family. And when I mean rest, I'm talking about that Sunday nap. Does anybody in here knows about the Sunday nap? By a show of hand, is Sunday nap, show me and let me know if Sunday nap is a thing for you by a show of hand. Yes. For the rest of you, I am not quite sure if you are saved and if you believe in Jesus at this point. I'm just joking. You love Jesus. But Sunday nap is one of those naps that, man, by the time you wake up, you can still feel that drool on your face. And maybe you're not a drooler. Maybe I'm alone. My favorite part about Sunday nap is waking up and having no clue where I'm at, how I got here. Is my kids, are they safe? Did they even eat? What happened? That's my favorite part about Sunday nap. You just have no clue where you're at. And to be honest with you, some of us, we just love to run errands on Sunday. That's just how we're built. We go to church and then we run errands. And if we're not running errands, we are going to Sunday brunch. And then there are others of us that's like, I could do all of it. I could go to Sunday brunch. I could take a nap. I could go to worship. I could do my chores. I could do all of that. God bless you. Know that you are uniquely wired and you are different. All of us are not like that. But as the day begins to come to an end, the reality of Monday starts to set in for all of us. And when the reality of Monday steps in, it's almost as if though it just slaps you in the face. And I'm not talking about like that cute slap. I'm talking about the one where it's like open-handed and just lean back and just slap us. That's what that anxious feeling feels like towards the end of the day as we prepare for the week. If you've never been slapped before, let me tell you, it hurts. And I'm talking about one of those slappers I just mentioned with an open hand. I remember being in the playground one time and talking back to my Nigerian mother. Yes, I lost my mind. And I just remember right in the playground because I thought I was safe because I was at a school playground. Surely my mother is not going to slap me out on the playground. And man, did she surprise me. She turned around and just, gave me one of those open hand slaps. That's the type of slap. That's what Monday morning thoughts feels like to a lot of us in here. Is there a statute of limitation on that? I should probably report her. It's not too late. Maybe it's not work that's stressing you, but it's money. You've got more month than money, and you just don't know how you are going to make it. Or maybe it's finding the right spouse. I remember before Pastor Ernest and I started dating in college, I remember saying to God, the next person that I date, I am going to have them go through an application process because I just need to be able to weed some of these people out before they even get so close to me. Then come Pastor Ernest, teaching Bible study on a Thursday night. I was like, you pass. Maybe it's getting pregnant. You went through IVF and you went through so many treatments, and yet you're like, I just feel so anxious. God, would you ever allow me to have a baby? I feel like every time I open my Instagram, my Facebook, or I open my mailbox, somebody else is inviting me to a baby shower. When, Lord, are you going to do it for me? God, are you going to bless me with the right job? My mother and my father, they had to work 3 jobs to make ends meet. Surely this cycle is going to end with me, Lord. Or maybe it's getting into the right school. Some of us are anxious about our sugar level because our doctor's like, you got to get it together. Some of us are anxious about our blood pressures or even an upcoming doctor's appointment because you haven't been feeling all that well. And you're like, man, I'm just anxious because I don't know what the doctors is going to find. And then there are others of us, we're like, man, we figured this thing out. You know what? We're just not going to go to the doctor's appointment altogether. Because if we don't go, then the doctors can't give us any bad news. Maybe you're a parent here and you're worried about your children and their future. And you're worried about, will they fit in at school? Will they be bullied? Who's influencing their thoughts? When you have anxiety, you don't sleep well at night. And if you're honest, some of us in here have sleep paralysis. If it's not sleep paralysis, some of us, we haven't laughed in a very long time because that's what anxiety does. It takes away your joy. And instead of seeing the sun, everything is clouds and dark days that we see. You might be asking yourself questions like, what if I don't perform well at my job? What if I don't pass that board exam? What if the SAT, I don't get a high score on it? Can we talk about that SAT score for a second? I heard recently that, colleges are really not all that worried about SATs as much. And when I'm like, no, they need to worry because I remember being stressed out at school, trying to get a high SAT score. So I'm in vote of let's keep the SAT scores. But maybe it's not that. Maybe you're like, I don't know how I am going to meet payroll this month. What if my parents can't afford to get me the braces that I need? Or what if that lump that is under my arm or that lump that is somewhere in my body that nobody can see, what if that lump turns to a tumor? We all struggle with some degree of anxiety thoughts. Has anyone in this room ever had a splinter? By show of hand, have you ever had a splinter before? Nice. For those of us that did not raise our hand, what did you do as a child? And even in your adulthood, have you ever fixed anything? A splinter, when you get it, it penetrates deep into your soul. And if you don't remove it, it turns to a chronic pain. Anxiety is much the same. It's like a splinter in your mind, a one that is free-floating, and it just dominates everything that you do from the time that you wake up to the time that you go to sleep. When you're eating, you're thinking about that thing. When you're asleep, even in your sleep, your dream is anxious. We're always worried that something is going to happen. There's some type of trouble that's around the corner, and our situation anxiety is starting to cause us to miss out on the freedom that God intends for you and I to have. There's a difference between fear and anxiety, though. They're not quite siblings, but they are cousins. Fear is a stress response to immediate danger. It occurs when there is actually threat to your well-being. Anxiety, on the other hand, is a stress response from the thoughts. Fear results in fight or flight, but anxiety results in doom and gloom. Anxiety can cause worry about problems, guess what, that have not yet even occurred yet. So you're worrying about something that hasn't even happened yet. How many of us have family members who struggle with anxiety? Please don't look at them or else you're going to get a lecture the whole ride home today. Like, why are you telling my business? Why you had to look at me, But we all know someone that's struggling with anxiety. I remember 2 years ago, I had my own struggle with anxiety, and it was at all-time high, and I was home with Chancellor and Amela, and I remember my legs literally just gave out on me, and I just started to have this chronic pain that started to rise up from my feet up, and I yelled to Chancellor and Amela, please stay in that room, please stay inside of that room, and then I called my husband, and I said, I cannot move, I am in pain. By the time he arrived at the house, the pain was already like almost up to my chest. And it just felt like not only was I losing control in my mind, but my body was also losing control. And he had to carry me downstairs, and the ambulance and the police department, they had to come get me. And it was so bad. The pain was so bad. I remember thinking, like, how long does it take the ambulance to get to the emergency room? It's right around the corner, but everything just felt like eternity in that moment. I remember there was no way to get me out of that anxiety at that moment until I got medical treatment. And if we're honest and we look at data, America is in an age of anxiety. The stats are staggering. Did you know that 50 million Americans will feel the effect of a panic attack and anxiety? In America, anxiety is the number one mental health problem for women and second only to drug and alcohol abuse for men. Anxiety. But why is that? Our cars are much safer than they used to be. None of us are driving around in a buggy or a horse, carrying us. We have better health care. Crime is going down. And most Americans, we don't live under the constraints of threats and attacks. Why are we so anxious? Despite all of the worrying that we are facing, there are disasters that are happening around us. One study declared that the United States is the number one most anxious nation in the world. Did you know that? I didn't. And if worry was an event at the Olympic, America would actually win the gold medal. And the reason for that is because there is an anxiety epidemic fueled by the rapid social change, technology, and just media saturation. Some of us wake up on social media. We go to sleep on social media. We can't get our work done and meet deadline. Guess what? Because we are on social media. And that cycle just keeps repeating, and it causes us to be anxious. We go to sleep watching cable news. Some of us are like, I just need something playing in the background in order to go to sleep. I get it. If there's no fan, I can't go to sleep. I'm like, whenever I travel to a hotel, I'm like, I'm just going to bring my little fan with me. I'm not going through menopause. I just need that fan going, even in the middle of winter. I need y'all to pray for me. The stress of mass shooting and disasters, all of that keep us worried. On top of that, many of us have people in our lives that are in the middle of a crisis. Sometimes it's not even us that's in the middle of a crisis, but our loved ones is in the middle of a crisis. So then that causes us to be anxious. And so they're anxious, and then now we're anxious. Some of us know people that are fighting cancer or going through a foreclosure, and they're just going through a hard time. But guess what? Enough of that. Today, my assignment is not to remind us of what anxiety can do, but I am here on assignment to tell us that there is a cure that Jesus has for you and I as it pertains to anxiety. And let me just go ahead and say this now. From this day forth, your life will no longer be dominated by anxiety in the mighty name of Jesus. Because with God, you can do all things, and worry does not have to take control of your life anymore. If you are easily overwhelmed and your mind is constantly crowded with nervous thoughts, I need to introduce you to a friend that I have known for over a decade. I actually met this friend while I was back in Nigeria as a little girl at the age of 7 years old, and this friend has many specialties. But if we decide to talk about the specialty of my friend, we will be here for a very long time. And as I mentioned, some of you have brunches to go to, some of you have chores to do, but I want to introduce you to my friend, and his name is Dr. Jesus. Dr. Jesus pulled out his prescription pad and wrote the original prescription for anxiety, and it wasn't Xanax. And though medication can be helpful and God can use it to treat medical anxiety, I'm talking about the situational anxiety, the kind we all face in our life. Anxiety is less of an opponent and more of an opportunity for us to lean into Jesus. We're in the middle of a passage in this sermon collection on a famous sermon on the Mount by Jesus. And some of the most insightful words spoken by Dr. Jesus uses these words to provide the cure for anxiety. And today, my sermon title is The Cure for Anxiety. In this sermon, Jesus addresses the root of our anxiety and shows us how to trust in God for all the things that we need and to stop letting anxiety control us. And the reason why we got to go to the root is sometimes some of us just cut things off at the top, but it's going to come back because we haven't addressed it from the root. And so today, join me in Matthew 6, verse 25. We're going to go line by line. Matthew 6, verse 26 to verse 25 reads, Therefore, I tell you, don't worry about your life, what you will eat or what you will drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Isn't life more than food and the body more than clothing? In this passage, don't worry comes up 3 times. Jesus is literally looking at you and saying, don't worry about it, I got it. He's like, that situation that just seems impossible, it's been going on for a long time. He said, I got it. He said, I know what they say, but believe what it is that I say. I got that situation and it's covered. And the reason why the Lord is repeating, I got this, is because he knows his children, because the first I got it, we probably didn't even hear it. And then the second time, we probably heard just a whisper of, I got this. But that third time, we're like, Lord, you're speaking to me. You got my situation. But Jesus is trying to draw a line also between worry and concern. Concern is responsible. It's taking care of what we need to take care of. It's planning for the future. It's caring about a family. It's about caring for our health. That's natural, but when it comes to anxiety, that's different. Anxiety takes concern, and guess what? It blows it out of proportion. It's like concern on steroids. That's what anxiety is. It's the kind of worry that suffocates your faith and makes you forget that God is in control. Now, why does Jesus take such a firm stance on this? Because he knows how destructive anxiety is. Anxiety doesn't just steal your peace, it distorts your entire view of God. Anxiety is here to kill, steal, and destroy, and you just keep opening the door. Come on in. You see, when you're consumed by anxiety, it shifts your focus. It shifts your focus from God's sufficiency to your insufficiency. It makes your problem seem bigger and it makes God seem smaller. That's why Jesus is repeating himself today. Don't worry. Don't worry about it. He's driving home the point that anxiety is not just a bad habit. It's a spiritual battle for you and your trust in God. Let me put it this way. Concern is when you think about your future in light of what you know to be true about God. Concern leads you to pray and to act and to seek and to make plans, but anxiety flips the scripts on you, and anxiety is when you look at your future in light of your limitation, and suddenly everything seems overwhelmed and you begin to lose control. It's when you forget that God is already in your future. Your future is not a surprise to God. Before you were even born, there's a plan and things that God was already doing by sending his son over 2,000 years ago to the cross. He has a plan for your life. Jesus is talking about more than just the regular stress of life to us today. He's addressing the deeper, that weightier anxiety, the kind that causes us to not sleep well at night and make us question whether God really cares about us. It's when the news starts to shape our worldview more than God's promises that's in scriptures for each one of us. It's when you find yourself trusting the opinion of people more than the unshakable word of God. It's when we start believing that our future rests solely on our shoulders and not in the hands of the one who holds the world together. I love that song. He got the whole world in his hand. Y'all lucky I can't sing. I'll be up here. Man. Pastor Ernest is watching right now. He's like, don't do it, don't do it. But Jesus doesn't just leave us hanging with a don't worry command. He knows us too well for that. He breaks it down even more. Look at verse 25 with me. He says, isn't life more than food and the body more than clothing? In other words, he's saying, guys, take a step back. There's a bigger plan at play. Jesus is challenging us to lift our eyes beyond what it is that we can see, beyond what's going on at our job, beyond what's going on with our health, beyond what's going on with that relationship. There's a bigger plan that Jesus has for you and I, and he is going to provide. Verse 26 says, consider the birds, the sky. They don't sow or reap or gather into barns, yet your heavenly Father, he feeds them. Aren't you worth more than they? He's saying, look at the birds. They don't stress about where their next meal is coming from. They're not worrying about where they're going to sleep. They're not building barns and stacking up for winter, but yet they are taken care of. Why is that? Because God is faithful to provide for them, and if God is intentional about those birds, creatures that do not think twice about their tomorrow, how much more would our Heavenly Father take care of you and I? We're not just a part of God's creation, church. We are the apex of his creation. We're made in his image. Jesus is driving home this idea that if God is so detailed in his care for the birds, which are here today and gone tomorrow, why would we ever doubt his provision for each one of us? Why? Think about it. The birds don't worry about stock markets, retirement account, or health insurance. They're so blessed. They're not living in a state of constant anxiety about the future, and yet they lack nothing. They trust that their needs will be met, and that what Jesus is inviting you and I today is to trust him, that if God got the birds covered, he's definitely got you and I covered as well. Go with me to verse 28 through 30, and it says, and why do you worry about clothes? Observe how the wildflowers of the field grow. They don't labor or spin thread. Yet I tell you that not even Solomon in all his splendor was adorned like one of these. Verse 30. If that's how God clothes the grass of the field, which is here today and thrown into a furnace tomorrow, won't he do much more for you, you of little faith? If God is handling the things that seem so small in the grand scheme of creation, the birds, the flower, what makes you and I think that the apex of his creation, that he will not take care of you? We get caught up in the day-to-day worries. How am I going to pay this bill? How will I meet payroll? How will I meet payroll? When and where will that team member come from? Will I still be in this relationship next year? Will my future work out? God, I need you. It just seems like my mind is everywhere. We worry about everything, that we begin to forget that God is in control. This is the God that spoke everything that you can see right now. There's a lot that you and I can see. We're talking about the God that spoke all of that into existence. We're talking about the God that also spoke the universe. There's the part you see, and there's a lot, y'all, that we don't even see. He is the one that spoke it into existence. That's the one that we are talking about today. That's the one that's holding our future together. And here's the thing. He's not just distant or uninterested. He is a part of every single detail of our lives. Think about this. If he cared enough to send Jesus to the cross for you and I, how could you ever doubt that he doesn't care? Romans 8:32 says it perfectly. If he didn't withhold his own son, what makes you think that he's going to withhold anything else? If God already gave you the most precious thing that he has, think about it. Giving someone the most precious thing that you have and then they doubt whether you love them or you care. You already have the most precious thing. He already gave that 2,000 years ago for you and I. If God already gave you the most precious thing, as I say, his son, do you really think that he's going to flinch when it comes to giving you that job? Do you think he's going to flinch when it comes to giving you a peace of mind that you've been believing for? Do you think he's going to flinch when it comes down to you getting into that school? Do you think he's going to flinch when it comes down to him giving you that child that you're believing him for? He gives good gifts to his children. He takes care of his children. If he takes care of the sparrows, he can handle your mortgage. If he clothes the lilies, he can handle your stress. If he keeps the planet spinning, he can take care of those deadlines that just keep staring you in the face, that you're just so anxious that you don't even know where to begin. Here's what Jesus is getting at this morning. Your Father knows exactly what it is that you need. I might not know that, but Jesus knows exactly what it is that you need. And he's already got a plan to meet those needs. He's going to come through for you. Somebody needs to hear that today. Jesus is going to come through for you. He's going to come through for you. He will come through. The truth is, anxiety makes no sense in light of who God is. That's the truth. It's like we're saying, God, I trust you with my eternity, but I'm not sure if you can handle my Monday, my Tuesday, my Wednesday, my Thursday, my Friday, my Saturday, Sunday. I don't know if you can handle that. That's what we say when we let anxiety run rampant. We believe he's powerful enough to defeat sin and death, but doubt that he can get us through the week, the month, and the year. It's crazy, right? But that's exactly what we do when we let anxiety overtake our faith. That's what it does. It overtakes our faith. Here's the reality. God doesn't just want you to trust him for the big spiritual things. Today, he's inviting you to trust him with your everyday need. He's not just the God of your salvation, friends. He is the God of your situation. When you put God plus any situation that you're going through, that situation has to change. It has to bow down to the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. He cares about the details of your life. He cares about your health. He cares about your finances. You and I were not even here yet before he sent his son to the cross. So surely, if he had a plan for our past, he has a plan for our present, and he also has a plan for our future. And when we put our trust in him, we start to see life through the lens of his provision and not through the lens of our worries. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, remember the birds. Anytime you see the birds, say, I am provided for, I am covered. Because if he can cover the birds, if he can take care of the flowers, surely he's going to take care of you, the apex of his creation. Matthew 6:32, for the Gentiles eagerly seek all these things, and your heavenly fathers know that you need them. Jesus is saying, look, you're acting like people who don't believe in God when you let worry consume you. The Gentiles didn't know the God of the Bible that you and I know. So, of course, they were anxious. I'll be anxious as well, too. They had no one to trust but themselves. But you and I, we have a loving Father who loves us so much that he sent his one and only begotten Son to go to the cross and to die for each one of us. Have you ever known a good father that would not feed his children? Have you ever known a good father that hears the cry of their children and would not respond to them? Jesus is telling us that anxiety is fundamentally a trust issue. I know some of us like, I don't have trust issues. We do. When we're anxious, it's like we're saying, God, I really don't believe that you are who you say that you are. Anxiety about the future makes sense for people that do not know a loving Father like we do. But for those of us that call ourselves believers, we have a loving Father. And so therefore, like I say, anxiety has to lose its grip on us because we know the truth of God's word and what it says concerning us. The heart of the issue is this: we do not believe God and the words that he said, and we don't know that he's going to be faithful. That's what we're really questioning when we allow anxiety to take over. But what I'm asking you to do today is to trust God, to believe him and take him at his word, because his word would never, never return back to him void. Do you know that the Lord of Lords actually watches over his word to make sure that they come to pass? I don't know about you, but sometimes I take note at work and I may never go back and look at those notes, or I write my to-do list down and I do try to get them done as much as I can. But the King of Kings, what he say he's going to do, he watches over to perform to make sure that it comes to pass. Matthew 6:27 says, "Can any of you add one moment to his lifespan by worrying?" My mentor often say, worry builds bridges to nowhere. Ask yourself, what can you change by worrying? Worry doesn't just add value. Worrying take values off of your life. In fact, worry diminishes your life. Worry makes false promises, convincing you that spending enough time on that thing is actually going to change. And the truth is that's not the case. Can you add any moment to your life by worrying? And the answer is no. And actually, not only can you add a moment, you actually take special moments that you can enjoy with your loved one, that you can enjoy on this earth. You actually take it away when you're worrying. The only thing that worry guarantees you and I is a decline in health, a strain on our relationship. The holidays coming up, and some of us are already feeling that anxiousness around the Thanksgiving table and around the Christmas table, and we're just like looking for an escape plan to not even show up altogether. That's what anxiety does. It robs us of special moments with our loved one. On top of that, many of us are worried about the things that's never going to happen. I like how Pastor J.D. Greer says it. Instead of living your life in a constant state of worry about what if, you should build your life on the promises that whatever happened, God is. There's a story in the Bible about the Hebrew officials who refused to bow down and worship the king. The king became so enraged that he threatened to throw them into a fiery furnace, and I know that must have been stressful for them, and they were nervous. But here's what they said: God is able to deliver us, but even if he doesn't, he is still worthy of our praise. I don't know what that situation is that's facing you, what that mountain looked like as a parent or as a wife, as a single, but whatever it is, God is able to deliver you from that storm. But even if he doesn't, he is still worthy of your praise. I'll encourage you to move from a place of what if to a place of even if. Even if I experience the fiery furnace of a difficult circumstances, God is still good. Yes, we might suffer. Yes, we might even face some illness or some loss in our life. Yes, we might even face death, but none of that changes God's goodness because of his son that he sends on the cross for you and I. Our eternal, our earthly sorrows don't have the final say over our lives. Matthew 6:33 says, "But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be provided to you." Here's what Jesus is saying to you and I in Matthew 6:33. You're spending all of your energy worrying about your needs, what you're going to eat, what you're going to wear, how you're going to make it. But if you just shift your focus on the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, He will provide. He will make a way for you. Jesus is calling us to a different living. Instead of being consumed with the day-to-day pressure, we pursue God first and trust that He will handle the rest. A lot of us have it backward. We pursue every other thing first and expect God to bless it. No, He said, seek me first. It is not negotiable. So the question is, are you seeking God's kingdom first? Because when you do, Jesus promises that the rest of your daily needs will be provided. He's going to do exceedingly, abundantly, above all that you can think, hope, and even ask for. So Dr. Jesus today have 3 prescriptions for you and I. And don't be like me, leaving the prescription at the pharmacy for weeks. You're getting a text message, you just keep ignoring. They're like, we're going to send your prescription back if you don't pick it up. Why would you do that? There are 3 prescriptions that the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords has for us today. Move this here. And one of the first prescription, what anxiety does for us is it just keeps you going in circle. Anxiety keeps you going in circle. But the moment you're like, Lord, I want all that you have for me. And I'm not going to look to the left. I'm not going to look to the right. But I'm going to look to you where my help comes from. When you say, God, I've tried it my way. I've tried all the medication that were prescribed and the ones that were not prescribed. When you say, God, I've tried even worshiping and bowing down to other gods, thinking that they might have the solution if I just burn a little sage or if I do a little crystal. And you've tried every single thing, and guess what? Our God is a jealous God. And today, the first prescription that He's saying is, right in front of you, there's a gift that I've already given to you. And the gift that I've given you, you've just been going around in circles. You see that there's a gift, but you have not opened that gift. And the gift that I have given you to last you all your days. It's my word. And my word will not return back to me void. As a matter of fact, test me. Hold me accountable to my word, and I'll do everything that I say that I would do, because I am who I say that I am. And when you open this word, I love it because it is a gift that just keeps on giving. Every single day, as you unwrap it like a gift, you get a present every single day. And you'll get a word in there that says, fear not. For I have not given you the spirit of fear, but I have given you the power and love and the sound mind. That peace you're looking for, it's in here. The next gift that Dr. Jesus has for you is to turn your worry into prayer. Chancellor and Amela, I'm glad that they're at the age when they could go to school, but there's this thing called homework. And I feel like when they have homework, I have homework. And they get these sight words every week, and then they get these vocabulary words. And this week, one of Chancellor's words was prayer. And I just love how simple the definition was right there. Prayer is talking to God. And some of us in here, we know people that just pray, and you're just like, man, I could never do that. Prayer is just talking to God. Talk to your Father. He sees you. He knows everything that you're going through. And if he cares for the birds, from this day forth, anytime you see a bird, just say, God, I thank you because I'm taken care of. Anytime you see flower, God, I am covered. It don't matter what that's like. It does not matter what that situation. He could turn a no to a yes. God is still in the business of healing cancer and delivering people. So as children of God, let's stop walking around saying, well, I guess this is the way that it's going to be. My aunt or uncle or grandma, no, it stops with me. It stops with you. And the last gift the Lord has for us this morning is practice gratitude. Oh, man, let me tell you, when that Amela, she has it down packed, man. Mommy, I'm so thankful for you. I'm like, what else you want? You want $5? Well, practice gratitude. Just say thank you. And you're like, well, things might not be going well. What do I have to thank him for? Thank him for the cross. Thank him for air. Thank him for mobility. Thank him. And watch how the Lord begins to just shift your perspective. With all eyes closed in this room,